Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. I promised you a riveting discussion, and I'm going to lead the discussion, but the individual who can really get your mind running this morning, as they did when I read the column, essentially, is Miss Denise Deming. She's an author, she's a columnist, she's a communications strategist, and quite possibly somebody who has a plan, who's not going to share that plan herself. Good morning, Miss Deming. How are you?
Good morning. And you started off by saying I have a plan?
Well, a plan for a good discussion.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. I read with great interest your article, A Missed Opportunity for Change, where you reflected on the recently held interim elections of the United National Congress, but you also utilized themes from that election to the bigger picture of national development, where we are and where we're heading. Before I get into that, though, it's how you started the article that really had me kind of, I was like, wow, you spoke about Father's Day and electing a woman to lead the United National Congress. Why did you start your article that? What was the thinking behind this as being the most pertinent introduction?
It's a very trivial kind of start of an article, but on Father's Day, we think of our men. We're supposed to think of our men, the people who have framed the way we are, the people who continue to support us, and so on. And to me, Father's Day was an excellent opportunity to transform and move towards Rushton Parry's grouping, who, remember, I had written earlier, telling him there's no way that he can try to transform without women. Mm-hmm. And then other things happened and you saw women join them. So on Father's Day, I said to myself, maybe they'll select Rushton's team. They didn't. They went after a woman's team. Mm. And that is what made me say, well, how come is it on Father's Day we select a woman over a man? So it was a very trivial approach.
So that leads me to my next question, moving away from the trivia for a bit and focusing on that theme of transformation. What do you think transformation is? And in the context of TNT, what should transformation be?
Transformation is to change your structure, systems, and processes to a very different approach. If we look at Trinidad at the moment, it would be very difficult to say that we're doing well, because we're not. If you listen to all the economists, they tell you all about the GDP and so on, which I have no real interest in. But what I have an interest in is our social development, our systems, our structures, our processes. I have tremendous interest in how do we make our people better? How do we ensure that you can walk through Trinidad and Tobago, anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago, without being worried about crime? And those are the things I'm interested in. The systems, the structures, the processes. I'm interested in crime, and I'm interested in the development of the people. Because if your people are not strong and they don't have a clear idea of what they want, then we will continue to have the mediocrity that we have. And sometimes when I describe it as mediocrity, I even think that the word mediocrity is too good to describe what is happening. We are really at the bottom.
Where does that mediocrity stem from, though? Do you think it stems from within the general population? Do you think it stems from the top? Where's the rooted mediocrity?
The root of mediocrity has to do with the context in which you're operating. So the culture is what will determine mediocrity. And our culture is led by poor quality leaders. Leaders who have no difficulty breaking a traffic light because they have police with them. Now, when a young person sees someone break a traffic light, they're not interested in, okay, but he has the police with him, so he can do it. They're not interested in that. What they're learning is you could break a traffic light if you wish, You go abroad to other countries. If that happens, it happens in a very defined way. There are other countries in which the politicians use the public transportation. So you don't see them giving themselves that opportunity. So it's always our leaders, our people who see themselves as I am better than you, I deserve more than you. And you look at most of our leaders, what you see are people who have come from very terrible backgrounds. They have not been successful prior to their political career. And there people will challenge me on that, but look at the 41 And you will not find that the majority of them have been successful because of their political career. What we have are people who get into politics for what they can get out of it, both what they can get financially, because most of them, you look at them before they got into politics, where they lived was a normal house and so on. You look at them now and you see that they're living in a multi-million-dollar house kind of thing. And you ask yourself, given the salaries that they get, how did they buy that?
But we've accepted that as a norm, Ms. Deming. That just seems to be something that is, okay, it's given now. It doesn't seem to be much of an issue anymore.
I have not accepted it, and I don't think I'm the only one. And I don't think we've accepted it. We've not accepted that you can get anything you want simply because of where you are and who you are. You still have to work. If we want to change this country, everybody has to start working harder so that we teach our younger people that, you need to work, you need to contribute in order for you to benefit. It can't be who you know. It can't be, I have a contact, therefore I get a contract. It has to be that you deserve it because you can deliver on it, because you're good at what you're doing. We can't continue the way we are going.
So then, do you think that attitude has, to a certain extent, seen us accepting incompetence as well? Do you think that we have become so lost or no longer interested in what is taking place that we are now accepting mediocrity and incompetence?
I don't think we're accepting mediocrity and incompetence as a population. And I keep focusing on our leaders. I think our leaders are accepting mediocrity and incompetence because most of our leaders are not interested in putting the best resources to deliver.
They get away with it. Why not feed it to the population if it is that they get away with it?
They get away with it, and that's where I keep pushing a needle into the population to say, listen, they can't get away with this. Let's transform our country. Let's change the way we do things. Let's ensure that we have respect for each other. Let's ensure that we recognize that competence and capacity is important. We cannot continue the way we are going. There has to be a major transformation. There has to be something that changes this country in such a way that we all begin to say, well, all right, I know what our goal is. I know what our vision is. I know what is the strategy that we're going to use. I know what the action is that I am supposed to be contributing. Strategy to action is important, but you can't get strategy to action if you don't have a vision.
You just said there must be something. Do you think that we can afford to wait to find out what that is, or do we have to create that something ourselves?
Listen, I don't have all the solutions. I don't have the solutions. But what I am very clear about is if you want to change your life, for instance, if you are overweight, you cannot continue to eat what you're eating, drink what you're drinking, and the weight will go away. You have to change your diet. You have to determine, okay, I will have a little less sugar, I will have a little less of that simple carbohydrates, I will go to more complex carbohydrates and so on. So you will then transform your body. The society cannot change if we continue, and it's something I've been saying for a while, if we continue the way we've been functioning over the last 14 years, we will not change. And the reason I talk about the last 14 years is that takes us back to 2010. It does, when the UNC came into power, when the People's Partnership came into power. And then it took us to 2015 when the PNM came back into power. We've had 9 years of the PNM, and I cannot say to you, this is something I'm proud of.
And if you've taken a position that you speak out to a certain extent. You speak out, you express yourselves. That is something that I don't often see happening. I see political commentary, I see people venting, expressing frustrations, but you're speaking out to an issue and you're trying to get to the root of that issue. Generally speaking, the argument is now transformation is going to start with young people. We can no longer rely on the older generations and the older heads. It starts with young people. But do you think young people themselves are afraid to express their opinions and their thoughts? Many of them I've spoken to don't even want, who have the potential, don't even want to take leadership opportunities because of that fear associated with it.
And that's an excellent question that you're asking me. And it's not an either or. It's not going to be just 50 young people will turn up and transform. There has to be collaboration. And when I talk about collaboration, I'm not only talking about political collaboration. I'm talking about collaboration between the young and the old. The young people won't just jump up. What they need is people whom they can follow, people whom they can look at and say, well, listen, I don't agree with you, but here's my view. And we are able to talk about it and then say, well, okay, this is my view, that's your view. What is it that we can do to make things better? You know, and that approach to collaboration will make a difference. But it has to be an approach in which we respect each other and we're not just looking at, well, you did this and that was terrible, or that was done and it was terrible. We look at it as, okay, what is the outcome that we want to get from this activity? If you're not focused on the outcome, and I may be a little bit repetitive, if you don't know where you want to go, then nothing you do makes a difference.
Let me come back to what you said, that there's not one thing that you could point out that you're proud of. If you're taking a look at the last 9-10 years in particular, do you think that you would feel more proud if, and I'm speaking about specific now to currently what is being offered to us on either side, I'm not speaking to one particular organization. Do you think you would be happy if there was a change in government given what it is that we're currently being offered?
If we had a change in government or governance?
Well, you go ahead and answer. You go ahead and answer.
If there was a change, I think that I would, if there was a change and depending on the outcome, that would make me feel happy. Listen, I'm very proud of my country. Trinidad is a beautiful place. I came in from Canada last night.
Oh, thanks for coming this morning.
A week ago, I was running around the Queen's Park Savannah and I tripped and fell because there's a piece of steel projected up this was in front of the Whitehall, eh? Okay. This was in front of Whitehall.
Very odd security mesh in front of Whitehall.
You know, and I fell and hurt my hip. While I was in Canada, I spent a lot of time just looking at the pavements. And I spent time looking at the pavements because of what I had just experienced. Now that, you may look at that as a very simple kind of, again, trivial example. But here's the issue with that. Whoever cut down the post that was there, nobody then went and supervised it and said, well, okay, for you to cut this down, you have to make sure that the entire pavement is flat. It can't be poking out. And that is an example of what happens in this country. People get something to do and they just do it. And nobody comes back and supervises it to say, well, okay, you've not completed this. And it's only complete when you've done X. Nobody does that. You look at all of our pavements and you see pieces of steel popping up that will impact disabled people. It will impact women who have children in a stroller. It will impact a walker. It will impact a runner.
I'll go one even better. You look at the roads and you wonder, oh, look, piece of road missing.
Again, I looked in Toronto, I looked at the roads. They are doing construction, right? But when they're doing construction, the way it is done, you understand it. Systems, structures, and processes are what we need. And that is what we do not have in this country.
Do you think it would be accepted if there was a push to change the norm?
Yes, there would be. Here's an example I use. Many years ago when we moved to seatbelts, in 3 months people wore seatbelts. So that's a simple example that people are willing to transform, they're willing to change if there are consequences. But if you feel that there are no consequences for anything you do, then you say, well, all right, no, it's okay. I know so and so. I could get through. You have to stop that.
So, and I'm speaking directly now to the context of the conversation. You said you love your country. I love my country as well. But do you think the more that you love your country, speaking about TNT, the more you become frustrated?
Okay. I have been trying to manage frustration for many years in this country, and one of the ways I manage it...
Please share some advice.
One of the ways I manage, there are 2 ways I manage it. I drink a lot of water. That might sound as if, what water has to do with it?
Somebody has been listening to Soca.
I do that a lot. And I do a lot of physical exercise, and that helps me with my frustration. And I also am very structured in my days. So when there are days when, okay, I'm not listening to the radio, not reading the newspapers because I have to do X, Y, or Z. Because if you continue to just listen and be part of it, you'll be frustrated, and you know, frustration is terrible. So you have to structure your day in such a way that you move away from them and their stupidness. And I mean, that's what I tell myself.
Okay, I hear you, but aren't you being a bit contradictory? We can't move away from the stupidness if we want to change.
You have to be in control of you. So I haven't left the country. I'm not running away for 5 months. I'm running away for a couple hours. And if I can run away from for a couple hours and I'm not into all the foolishness that's happening, then I can relax and I can work on the things that I'm interested in as well. And then I jump back in. And I jump back in and see the headline on crime has not changed. I've not read the newspaper for a week. Crime, that headline has not changed. How are we going to continue to survive? You know, because for instance, crime in this country has to do with systems, structures, and processes. What are the systems to prevent the guns from coming in? What have we done with the borders? Are we telling the population that in X year, X number of guns came in, but in this year it's less? We can't tell them that. We don't have the data. So crime continues, and it continues in a way that makes, at least it has made me, I'll give you another example. I moved to Digicel 20 years ago, and I would leave my house at 4:30 a.m. and go for a run. Recently, I wanted to do a long run, and I spent so much time saying to my husband, I'm not sure that I could do that, you know. I'm a little worried and so on. And I eventually did what I normally do these days, jump in your car, drive to the savannah, and then go for a run. Because I'm so afraid of the Digicel main road, a place where 20 years ago I would run at 4:30 and not feel terrible.
When my parents would tell me that, you know, when they were growing up here in TNT, and even my elder cousins, you know, who were, you know, just a few years older than I, would tell me, growing up, we used to leave our doors unlocked. There was no such thing as burglar proofing, for example. Maybe you had your fancy windows and whatnot, but all this thing about raw tying and all that wasn't something that was a part of planning for your house or when you're building or you're renovating. I don't believe it. I find it hard to believe that there's been such a drastic change in such a short period of time, and then it's led to a great decline. It's very hard for me to digest, and I often wonder, have I missed out on the best that Trinidad has to offer?
Maybe you have in terms of my generation, you've missed out on the best. But every generation has their best. And your generation still has the opportunity to transform our country and experience the best. The best is contextual. The issue that your parents have talked about where we used to be able not to lock the door and so on, I'll give you another example. I lived in Chaguanas for 18 years. When we sold the house, our biggest challenge in selling the house was finding the keys for the doors. Because when you're selling a house, you have to give the people the keys. But living in Chaguanas was so easy and so, it was comfortable that we didn't even have a problem with keys for the doors.
Wow. I've spoken about incompetence, and you referenced incompetence, but you keep speaking about structure as well. And I wonder if we often use incompetence as the most reasonable excuse. There seems to be a great lethargy and a lack of discipline.
There is a lack of discipline, and I have not seen any governments, except under Caroline Prasad,
Caroline C. Prasad.
Caroline C. Prasad, right? When she was doing a process to transform the public service. I've not seen similar approaches, and the transformation of the public service to one in which that is customer serviced, customer oriented, transform one in which people respect each other. That is the kind of thing that the government, whoever is in government, that's the kind of thing you have to do, because the public service is a major employer. If you transform them in terms of deliverables, it will impact the rest of the society. There's another thing that I think we need to do. Our police are not structured. Police do, I don't know, they kind of do it, I feel to do this, so they're not structured. If our police service was more structured, that would impact the society. You see people breaking traffic lights. Why do they break traffic lights? There are no consequences. You know, I see the police car parked by the corner and the policeman in his uniform lining up for doubles. How?
One policeman for one police car. Right?
And it's doubles he's going for. And you may be saying that I'm looking at little things, but those things bother me because if there's a system, a structure, and a process in which somebody knows exactly where that policeman is and what he's supposed to be doing, and there's a consequence, then he wouldn't do it. And if he's not doing it, then he may transform his own family.
Yeah, but do we need somebody behind us with a big stick all the time?
Right now, I think we do. Right now, our society has become so, I don't know, we need structures, we need people, we need consequences.
So my final question to you is, you close your column by saying, let's come together to do what is necessary to transform our country. Our future depends on it. What is necessary to transform our country?
Collaboration. Political and social collaboration is absolutely necessary to transform this country. We have to stop this political party based on race. We have to transform, we have to move away from that, and we have to collaborate with each other. Look at our crime situation. The opposition and the government did not collaborate to come up with a crime plan. So when I talk about what needs to transform, it is collaboration, both politically and socially.
What should future leadership look like in TNT?
Future leadership in TNT? Okay, 20% women, 20% men. There should be another 20% of one race, 20% of another race.
So do we really need to get it down to that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because you look at it at the moment, women are not recognized in this country. We need more women in leadership, but they're not there. Is it that they don't want to do it, or is it that a lot of them still feel that, you have to offer it to me, I'm not going to ask you for it? So we need to transform by having more equity. We need to transform by having more diversity, and we need to transform by having more inclusiveness of the different things in our society.
Mr. Meng, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm going to have to bring you back. That last part of our conversation where you were speaking about what leadership should look like and you broke it down, that's a whole different topic that we have to get into some other time. So let me know when next you're traveling and I'll bring you back there next morning. I think it's quite amazing. You came back last night and you're here bright and early this morning. Thank you very much. The average tree would not even show up because of the rain. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All the very best. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Many a times, I stressed on it earlier. We said, if you put our minds to good use, it's amazing what we can achieve here in TNT. But I understand, I recognize the message in respect to leadership, but new leadership has to rise, and it has to rise with you. Especially young people. I hope you're listening, and I hope that you're getting rid of that fear to speak more and more openly. Well, that's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much to my guests, and thank you very much to my dream team, Ryan Gomez, Burke, and Mahal Redwood, as we like to refer to him. Thank you very much for all your hard work and dedication. And ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the weather. Go to work now, please. I did it this morning, and it was raining very heavily.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We are small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. I mean, and Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to AM Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying with us this morning. We continue the conversation focusing on politics, and hopefully this proves to be a bit more of a constructive conversation as compared to our previous. And that being said, there's a lot happening globally in the world of politics. For example, in the United Kingdom, a snap election was called. That's due to be held on next week, Thursday. There's hints at shifting tides within the UK. It's a similar situation in France as well. Also, snap elections are taking place. Again, a lot to be said there. So we can't get into the story of every single country, but what is happening globally in the political landscape? How can that be reflected here in TNT, more particularly with the young people? I'm joined by an individual who has not said much on politics, but does have an opinion on this particular topic. I'm joined by columnist Dr. Gerald Matis. He's with us in studio. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kijan, and good morning to everyone.
Well, thanks for joining us once more on the program. As I mentioned, you don't often speak about the world of politics. What engaged you to do such?
Yeah. So I listened to your previous, got part of your previous guest on, and I'm not a political analyst. I've never done professional training in youth development, but I can observe things happening around the world. And there's something happening particularly throughout Europe. Also in the US to a lesser extent. And it got my attention because a trend I see is developing. And it's been brewing for some time. And that trend has to do with a gradual shift more towards the far right. So we think about politics on a scale. We have the left, the center, and the right. The right typically nationalist, conservative. The left more liberal, more about internationalism, etc. And in the center, as you can guess, pretty much occupying that middle ground. But then we have the far right, which is a sort of ultra-nationalist sentiment and ideology. And what we're seeing in Europe, particularly in France and Germany, let's say, with their European Parliament elections, young people were found to have been moving more far right, which is something unusual because young people tend to be concerned with questions of rights and freedom.
Of course.
Ideologies that are synonymous with the left. So it's a really interesting kind of trend that we're seeing, and it's definitely something to keep track of because France called a snap election in light of their recent loss of ground in the EU election. And snap elections are sort of hit and miss because it sort of signifies instability. And President Emmanuel Macron, he called the snap election with the hope that it could solidify his base. We'll see how it goes.
But it is interesting. You've just named two European Union giants. The country that just exited the European Union, the United Kingdom, that election sees the left actually gaining grounds. In fact, it's predicted that Labour will have a landslide victory. So do you think that this ultra-nationalist movement is focusing more so on the independence, the autonomy of these nations.
Yeah.
That is why there is a focus from young voters.
Yeah, I think so. But it must be said that the Labour Party, they're not quite left. They're also more centre-left.
Centre-left.
So they're also occupying that middle ground in the hope that it doesn't estrange those would-be young voters who would otherwise have voted for the left, because we're seeing that certain values like rights and freedoms, and by rights and freedoms I mean things like LGBTQ rights, for example, like climate change. Those values are occupying less priority, and we're seeing issues of jobs, for example, job creation, affordable housing for young people, opportunities for young people. These are the things that they care about. And actually, one of the polls from the German EU election, they were found that climate change was ranked just lower than more pressing issues such as inflation. So young people are really worried about the economy, and I think we can draw a similar situation in Trinidad.
But the thing is, if we are reflecting on what's happening globally, because we've used European Union as an example, globally, however, this trend seems to be taking place. How is that actually reflective of what's taking place locally with our politics?
So I think they're similar in terms of the ideology. So thankfully we don't have a far-right party to tout issues of, say, anti-immigration, or at least on a large scale. Or anti-internationalism. But issues such as the economy still occupy a very important role. I refer to Shakira Burton, who won the Poetry Grand Slam, NGC Burgos Lit Fest. Her piece was about young people and getting jobs, and there was a frustration there brewing. And I like to think, with my literature background, poetry is the voice of the people, and Burton's piece captured that. There's a real anxiety among young people, I think. I don't claim to be a spokesperson for young people. I'm nearing the end point of my category as youth, technically. Cutoff year is 35. But I still feel that I can relate to young people. I don't know what TikTok is, actually. But I still feel like I understand some of that, right? So while the ideologies might be different, I feel like the sentiment is still the same. At the core, I think, for young people, some issues remain the same, and that really has to do with what is being done for opportunities.
You've claimed not to be a political analyst, but everyone has an opinion, and I'm curious to know, based off of your research and even what you would have heard, your opinion, do you think that that lack of political ideology, we don't have that in TNT as such, unless you get really into what politicians say when they are campaigning or when they get into office, we don't have clearly defined political ideologies. Our ideologies are PNM, UNC, red, yellow, that's really what it is. Do you think that is actually a core part of our problem, especially in 2024, 2025, we're heading into a general election?
Yeah, absolutely. What do we believe in? Like, who do we look to? How do we identify, these kind of ideologies? So that dearth of ideologies that you're referencing there, I think that's a real problem, because you look around at our leaders and you see infighting. We saw the internal elections. We see cross-fighting, which continues. There was a recent sports rally by the PNM, and they use it as a political platform. So it's not necessarily about the ideology, because you're right, I think there's a lack of one. But there is what I would say, a politics of revenge, a politics of blame. And if that is our ideology, I think that is what further estranges young people, because we're tired of it.
But you're saying that we're tired of it, but do you think young people in TNT in particular are willing to participate first by subscribing to new style of politics? Yeah. Do you think that level of participation exists?
No, I don't. I think the youth arms of the various political parties, I think they're more focused on creating a pipeline of voters to solidify their base. And I don't think the focus should be on developing their critical thinking and allowing them to be leaders in their own right. So the participation thing, when it does occur, it's more about let's sturdy up our base for the next generation of voters for these two political parties.
But then, Gerald, we find ourselves in a situation. Why does the youth vote matter then?
Yeah.
If that level of young people may be frustrated,
Yeah.
but that frustration is not necessarily equal to participation. So therefore, we find ourselves in a problem. Whilst you're suggesting, watch out for the youth vote, is there even a youth vote to speak about?
Yeah. So yes, we're sort of blinded by the fact that we have a poor culture of data keeping. So we can't even identify what is the pool of eligible young voters. So that's a problem. The census was supposed to be done in 2022. We're still using the pandemic as an excuse for why the census hasn't been completed. Censuses tend to be expensive. Okay, we get that. But it's been 2 years now, and we need a census to let us know how many eligible young voters there are. So that's a problem. But the vote, there is a youth vote. I think it's, like I said, I think it's being channeled into just party politics. So I think that's the way it's going, and we're kind of skewed. So we need data collection, and we need youth arms to be a bit better in what they're doing. But there is a youth vote because the fact is those young people are not turning up as much as they should. And I think there's a lack of motivation, a lack of encouragement, a lack of inspiration. And that sort of is being masked and sort of...
Well, clearly you're not going to get that inspiration or that motivation from what is currently being offered.
Yeah.
In fact, what is currently being offered is quite possibly why there is a lack of youth participation.
Yeah.
That being said, it's going to take some sort of self-motivation on the part of young people to actually open their eyes and probably realize, hold up, I think I need to do a bit more than I'm currently doing.
Yes.
The problem is, do we have enough young leaders in TNT that are actually willing to take that stand? And I say that we have youth councils.
Yeah.
We are, whether it be the Trinidad Youth Council, the Tobago Youth Council, we have youth arms of political parties, but they do not seem to be beyond just the organization.
Yeah.
It just seems to be focused on the organization and the objectives of the organization, not necessarily exporting that beyond the organization and truly reflective of a leader beyond their tenure and such.
Yeah.
So then there is a lack of, would you say there is a lack of young leadership?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And even those who are, let's for example say in the opposition, they're more focused on blame and holding on to power. So there are young politicians, young parliamentarians. They're just not serving young people, which is unfortunate because we always say, well, young people don't get a chance, we don't get a voice. But when we do get the voice, those aren't doing the job and serving young people.
Do you think that you as a young voter can be persuaded?
I think I can, because I'm done with the two-party system, so I can absolutely be persuaded. It will come down though to not just the leader of a particular party, but also the people around them. I understand why people would, even young people, might gravitate towards the two major political parties. They've been in power for the longest time. They've shared power. They have sort of competent people, we would hope.
I like that, sort of competent.
But no, I can't be persuaded. But it would take a lot. It would take a lot to actually show that young people actually matter and issues are being spotlighted, the issues that we care about.
Okay, a fair point in that regard. But are you of the opinion that, again, I think he gave away his age a bit this morning, in so many years, of your studies, your observations, you're a columnist. I mean, you've produced many columns. We'll get into that actually at the latter half of the program. But, do you think that that is going to come from the already established entities?
The persuasion, yeah,
let's put it this way. You haven't been persuaded now as such.
Yeah.
There is a lack of confidence. That has led to great frustration. As you mentioned, I as a young person too, I hope so. I still feel kind of young in some ways. But, you know, at the same time, I share in that frustration.
Yeah.
The thing is that what we have seen is an oversubscription to this sort of, whatever the political ideology is in TNT, this two-party system.
Yeah.
And regardless of new entities that may arise, they don't necessarily get that level of support. So is there too much of a reliance for this change to come from what is currently what currently exists?
Yeah. No, I don't think there's too much of reliance. I think that the stereotypes around young people is that we're headstrong, we're impatient, but we're also in the best position to take risks. And I think young people being in that position, I think that's a real strength because we're not burdened by, you know, our parents perhaps. We don't have that sort of sensibility, and we care about what is currently happening. We're seeing, let's show, for example, the pro-Palestine movement. It's young people at my university, they were driving that, and young people much significantly younger than I was. So I think it's about risk-taking, and if we make a mistake, like, we accept that and we move on. But I think right now, given that we have the general election coming up next year, I think now is the time to mobilize and organize ourselves. And first of all, be inspired, wake up early, go to the polling stations. EBC, let's be honest, they have gotten better. It took me like a couple minutes to vote last election.
Same thing with me.
Yeah, so they have gotten better. It's just about waking up early again, maybe a stereotype not associated with young people. But the first thing, we need to be inspired enough to show up. And I don't think right now it's all about, well, the old people not giving us a chance. But the thing is, we need to take our chance, and if possible, we need to take that risk as well.
I very much like the line that you said there, we as young people are in the best position to take risks. I very much appreciate that, and we will get further analysis, and we will continue the conversations in a bit, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a break here on the program, but when we return, there's a question that Gerald had asked. I'm wondering if he's, since authoring this particular piece, he's gotten an answer. But there's also a lot more that Drill is offering to the nation and, by extension, the wider world. We'll get into that after this.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's been the victim,
right,
or the man has been the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us this morning as we continue the conversations. Actually, we're focusing now on the ICC Men's T20 World Cup and giving a general analysis, but we're starting off with the West Indies team in particular. There were many, according to many analysts, pre-tournament favourites, but where did it all go wrong after doing so well in the group stage? It just seemed to all collapse in the Super 8 stage, but let me get some more analysis and commentary from an individual who has a lot more knowledge than I do, and that's Mr. Lester Cassimy. He's with me in studio once more. Lester, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks very much. So, again, West Indies were pre-tournament favourites for many. I know that you have your thoughts about that as well. But what is your general thoughts and opinions on the West Indies and their plans in the World Cup and how they executed such plans in the World Cup, doing very well in the group stage and then seemed to all collapse in the Super 8s?
Yeah, I was very happy that they were able to move out of the group stage. But I did not, in fact, I predicted that they weren't necessarily going to go forward. There are a number of factors, actually. There are things that I looked at. And I looked at the other teams, and what I saw coming from the West Indies, yes, the West Indies team is a good team, but I thought I saw better teams than the West Indies team. I always wondered about the captain as to whether or not he had smarts, and it proved that I was correct. I don't get the impression that he's cerebral. He's able to think. And then we could deal with the players as well. I didn't think that we should have had Myers in the first 11. Eventually he came in. McCoy eventually came in. And I questioned Sammy being the coach as well. I questioned Sammy being the coach. So there were a number of factors that I mentioned and I spoke about. And fortunately for me, I did those things before, so I'm not coming now after the fact. Yeah. And to say, well, no, no, I said those things before. Sammy was too inexperienced to be considered to be the coach of the West Indies team. I also did say, now that you have picked him to be the coach, do not drop him. You have to work with him so that he could get the experience. Mm-hmm. I also did say that the captain didn't appear to understand or know the game. Hence the reason Sammy had to be on the sideline, which to me is a misnomer. That's not done. Cannot be accepted. The coach being on the sideline. There are other ways that we transferred information from the pavilion to the captain. If I was a captain, if a manager did what Sammy did to Rafael Power, did that to me, we'll have war in the dressing room. There'll be war. You can't come on no sideline and play you talking to me, because we would have discussed certain things in private, and I'm supposed to be smart enough to retain it. Or they would have been in concert with other persons, and they're supposed to pass the information on to me on the field. And so you cannot come on the sideline and play you're talking to me.
Well, that's the thing, actually. The argument that's made is that it was the captaincy that lost us the game against England in the Super 8s, which was our first Super 8s game, as well as against that last team that we played, South Africa. It was the captaincy that lost us the game more than anything else.
I don't know if the captain, one man, could do that. I know that Hossain bowled his heart out. I know that men bat their heart out. But you have to pick men, and you have to drop men. I always wondered, Johnson Charles, if he should be on a West Indies squad.
Well, I'm glad that you raised Johnson Charles because I've watched Johnson Charles the entire tournament, and my impression, and I'm trying my, I know they'll always say they'll have critics, we should be proud of the boys. Will always be a West Indian fan, that's why I'm so critical. Johnson Charles to me seems to be one of the laziest cricketers I've ever come across.
Just look at his gait. Look at him. He's a few pounds heavier than he should be. There's no pride in that. There's no two ways about it. Johnson Charles not running from fast bowlers. Johnson Charles can bat, but somehow he missed the plot. His batting average was always close to 100, just over 100. That cannot cut it in a T20. It cannot cut it. So I never understood why they brought back Johnson Charles. I saw him playing in Pakistan. He did well in Pakistan, but the aggressiveness that he plays or played in Pakistan, that was lost. And so we lost the plot by picking Johnson Charles. But I want you to understand, it continues, you know. Where is Johnson Charles from? He's from the Windward Islands. And so they would have persisted until they couldn't go on anymore. And we keep going on and on and on. And so Johnson Charles, we start with that. Unfortunately, King wasn't hitting it, but we know that King can hit it. Just as he was hitting it, he flattered to deceive on the ground, some muscle or the other, and he's gone.
Groin muscle. But Shea Hope came in and Shea Hope made his arguments.
Shea Hope is the best batsman we have in the Caribbean after or with Darren Bravo.
He's the most naturally talented batsman, yeah.
And he has added now a new dimension to his game. The new dimension is, don't come close to me because I'm going to beat you. I don't know if he has put on muscles, but he has put on some kind of aggressive training in his brain. And so he has been, a wonder. He has been a wonder. But the truth is, we just saw him in India, and he failed in India. He failed miserably in India. When I looked at him, I deliberately and consciously looked to see the guy who just won the CPL as the top batter. And he didn't come close to that. What I saw with the not out, he came to his best. But I'm wondering with this guy mentally, it seemed to be something not right with him. I saw him in an interview insulting and embarrassing a Barbadian reporter for asking very mundane, simple questions. So it means that he's probably frustrated, and you probably can understand why he's frustrated, because he feels that these guys who are on parade, Johnson Charles and the likes, they're just don't measure up to him.
Let's talk about the plan going into an innings. We know West Indies batting, they're going to go all out. Many times I was disappointed in the sense that it didn't seem as though people batted for the innings. Puran was brilliant at many times, but then you would think the level of experience and maturity Puran has, he would bat for an innings. It's the same thing with Russell. You know, I thought that they would come out and bat for this situation they found themselves in. Even Rovman Powell, you know, especially in that last game against South Africa, it didn't seem to be that anybody was batting for the innings. But when you speak about a game plan, why is it that every single game, it was more or less the same? Akil Hossein's opening the bowling. He bowls 3 overs, at least 3 overs, in the power play. And then you come on with Alzari Joseph. Then you have Gunikesh Moti. And if Shepherd is on the team or McCoy is on the team, they come into that mix as well. You know, I never understood it. It just seems to be the same game plan. South Africa were completely different. Markram came on and bowled in the power play, was very successful in the power play. You think that failed us as well, where teams just knew what we were coming with?
Well, if these guys were good enough, you could come with the same team and you could come with the same approach, or the approach could be the same. But there's no bowling team that the Guyanese fast bowler, you call his name just now, could be on it, and it's a good bowling team. Shepherd is definitely a horrible bowler. Shepherd cannot bowl. In the CPL, Shepherd was going for tons. Before that, Shepherd was going for tons. But I saw Shepherd against India in the Oval, and he had improved as a bowler. That is 50 overs. But Shepherd is bowling military medium pace. And what annoys me with Shepherd is the grin or the smile, an embarrassing smile after he's walloped all over the place. Shepherd is not and should not be bowling. We could take a chance with him batting. What is frustrating to me, or one of the things that we expect, which is unfortunate, we expect Puran to take the chances that he's taken and feels that he can last 15 overs. That's not possible. Not possible. But the guy is supremely talented. I don't understand why he hits the ball so hard. Lord have mercy. And so frequently. The man is talent, pure talent. I love my Puran. But Puran cannot continue like that. You're going to get a 60, 70, and if you do, very good, because you're going to get it in 20, 30 balls. Because he plays for the team. Now, if you're the captain of the West Indies team, and my name is Ravel Power, I know I cannot play spin. And you know what else? You know I cannot play spin. So once the spinners are on and they get a wicket, I send somebody else to bat, and then I send somebody else to bat, and you're going to use up your overs, and then I'm going to come, because Ravel Powell against fast bowling is one of the most lethal fast bowler batsmen we have. But he comes on against South Africa, against spin bowlers. Well, a spin bowler, he can't last because there's no brains attached to it. Hold him back.
Well, you saw that with Rashid Khan. As soon as Rahman Powell came on, Rashid Khan put himself on.
Gone.
Yeah.
He cannot bat spin bowlers. Spin bowling. So you make up your mind that you will be shifted as you go on, just as they do with Ruston Chase. Ruston Chase, though, on the other hand, he plays both spin and... But I can tell you now that Ruston Chase has performed way beyond my expectation.
And do you think he's made his argument to steal his position in the T20 team?
I'm just saying right now that he is... I'm not a Ruston Chase person. But based on what he has done, his bowling, and I also feel that Ruston Chase is one of the weakest fieldsmen on the West Indies team. And I'm hearing everybody promoting that he's a very good fieldsman.
Well, I mean,
so I'm missing something.
Personally, in this tournament, he improved quite a lot in his fielding. Yeah,
I'm missing something. There's been a quantum leap. There's been a difference in Ruston Chase because this is the World Cup, so you did some extra practice. But where are the other guys? By the way, this is the same Ruston Chase who cannot pass a physical. This is beyond me. But his batting came up well, his bowling came up better than well, and his fielding was excellent. So he was one of the guys who stood out that you can't criticize. Russell is a talent, a real talent. He did much better with the ball than I expected because Russell goes for a lot of runs, and embarrassing runs, 6 runs and 4 runs consistently. He did extremely well. He was able to get wickets early. So you give him for trying, but his batting, it faltered.
Yeah, it did.
Right? It flattered to deceive. So overall, the West Indies team, to me, did what I expected from them and no more. If you wanted West Indies team to end up in the semi-finals and the finals, I think that you've been on a different planet.
What about Alzarri Joseph? Alzarri Joseph was spoken of highly by a lot of the commentators. Dale Steyn, for example, spoke very highly. Ian Bishop spoke very highly of Alzarri Joseph. And the thing is that, again, I know you may say we're being harsh and critical, but it's an analysis. To me, Alzarri Joseph, many times, he got wickets, but he's extremely expensive as a pace bowler. In fact, line and length, I'm wondering if he even practices that anymore.
Well, Alzarri Joseph just came out of the IPL, and you could judge from that. Alzarri Joseph played 2-3 games and not to be seen again because he was so bad. All right? Alzarri Joseph, to me, 2 years ago, last year, he improved a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot. I saw him here in this World Cup. He improved over then, but he was still not up to standard. Still not up to standard. And I keep making the point so that people understand. It is not how many wickets you get, because there's a fellow named Hayden Walsh. He used to get a lot of wickets, but with plenty legs. And he used to get wickets with a set of full tosses and short pitch bowling. So those who understand the game know that you have to leave Alzarri Joseph because the opposition going to murder you. So we have a good team, and I keep telling people, good is not good enough. You have to have a very good team. The South African team is a very good team. They're made up of guys who they're leaving out that any of the other teams in the world would be happy to have. So,
and they're clicking at the right time.
They're clicking. Now, they're noted to be chokers. I'm hearing that now consistently. They're chokers and they're chokers. So they're probably waiting for the finals to choke. I don't know. But I know one thing. They have been performing. Rabada, for instance, was someone who I'm surprised the amount of licks he has been getting. But we saw what happened last night. He didn't bother to take any licks. He did from his first ball. He was very effective.
Actually, his first over, 2-wicket maiden.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, from the first ball, we got a wicket in his first ball. But that was that game last night was a sleeping game.
Very unfortunate, actually. I know many
I don't know if you're going to go there now.
Actually, before we do get there, I know you've given your analysis of the team, but there's one other thing we have missed. Many times, the average number of dot balls that West Indies absorbed in innings, 9 overs in dot balls when they're batting.
I don't know what's the calculation for 9, but I know it's between 52 and 57. So I don't know I can't count too good. Murder. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Right? Unbelievable that you're doing this now for the last 5 years. We're talking about this more than 5 years. Are you telling me up to a World Cup we are still discussing this? That's not possible. We can't be discussing this. And this brings me back to Johnson Charles. When you look at Johnson Charles, he plays the bat flat like this. Flat. I hope your viewers can see it. Flat. When you are a batsman of any note, you play with the bat like this. You play with the bat like this. And you shift your body to suit. And you try to get a single. It is block here. Block. Just block the ball. And when you have the kind of power this guy exerts and has, you got to be crazy to think that this is the guy that the coach, Sammy, is insisting must be playing.
Well, that's what I thought. You had Kyle Myers on the bench, you had Shea Hope on the bench, and they could have opened the batting.
Well, Kyle Myers couldn't come in until.
Well, he was reserved, that's why.
Right, but Kyle Myers ain't helping me much either, you know.
You would not have preferred to see Kyle Myers over Johnson Charles?
Let me share something with you that the public needs to know. I am of the view that Kyle Myers run from fast bowling. That we start with that. And if you're opening the batting as fast bowling, you're going to face. I look at him and there's a science with the running now. A long time people used to run by backpedaling to the square leg. He doesn't backpedal to the square leg. He whoops his way out. He whoops his way out and hope to God he doesn't get hit. You understand? So I am of the view that he's running, and who can't see that? Well, they probably saw it. That's why they left him on the bench. But as a talent, he's a real talent. He can bowl, he can field, and well, he's an opening batsman. He bats well. And the size of this guy, when he hits the ball, it stays hit. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that we would have to use him, but we had to use him eventually. Again, we go back to Shai Hope. Unbelievable talent.
Oh, good. And definitely the most naturally talented batsman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at last night, actually, in that game. Man of the match on many of occasions, actually. Even the commentator said it, was the pitch. All right? We're not speaking about just last night. Throughout the tournament, the cricket pitches seem to have gotten man of the match awards. They're the ones that dictated the entire games. Not the weather, the cricket pitch.
You know, I keep telling people I am from Sao Paulo, letting people know that I'm a Brazilian. Give me Brazilian bread. This is one of the times I'm telling you I'm from Sao Paulo, because I am so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed with what we presented to the world as a cricketing wicket. I am so embarrassed. And what is sad is that it wasn't necessary, you know. It wasn't necessary. Let's look at Taruba, right? I am one of those parents who would, I'm sorry, those of you who never beat your children, I probably hit them once or something like that, but I'm a disciplinarian. So let's talk about Trinidad and Tobago. Jesus. You know how long we had to prepare this wicket? Mm-hmm. We had a long period to prepare this wicket. This wicket that I saw there, when they did, you know, they talk about a bird's eye view. Well, a bird's eye view could be here, which is an eagle, or it could be a pelican. Pelican can't go too high. So when they give me the pelican bird's eye view, I said, but this is Ludo.
Yeah.
This draft. It's a set of boxes. And what was unfortunate about it is they went up even closer now, and they were showing you the man putting his hand in is a set of grass.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of grass on that pitch.
No, you have to understand. If those of you who have a living room and those of you who have a patio, well, an area where a car would drive in as well, in your living room, all the tiles are close together, could be, especially the glazed one, and so it's smooth. The patio or outside, you know, there's this rough. This is what was presented to the world last night. That's what presented to the world. Hence, using the grass was able to grow. so that in between the bumps. And I'm saying, these guys from South Africa were bowling real fast. Yeah. And so all we were doing is endangering the Afghanistanis. That's what we were doing.
Well, we saw it with Nokia and we saw it with Rabada.
Real fast, these guys are bowling. And so, and you look at the captain of Afghanistan, he's looking for a fight because they know how to shoot people down there easy. Right? He's looking for a fight because this is not playable. Yeah. We should not be presenting this to the world. And don't think that this is what is happening in Trinidad. This is happening except for St. Lucia, right through. Let's go back to where the final, let's go back to go forward. Where is this final going to be?
Kensington.
In Barbados. Okay, so do you remember, or have you seen the Prime Minister of Barbados? Very good looking lady, very intelligent woman, very articulate. I love her voice, everything just nice. And so when she presented to us that, hear what, this Kensington Oval is the greatest thing. I'm jealous. I'm mad because we're going to be playing down Garkara Park, down Taruba. And I know what down there looks like. I've been there. And then you've seen what Kensington Oval is. And it's looking lush green, and it's looking so and so on. Here what's happening. The greatest fast bowlers came out of Barbados. Westall, my personal friend. Marshall was my personal friend. Ghana, I just met him. All of these guys.
You're talking about some of the fastest bowlers in the history of cricket.
The history of the world came from an island that is not $300,000 persons. You know what I'm telling you? So they had material to work with. They had a fast Kensington Oval, and the other parts of Barbados, the wickets were fast. I played a practice game in Dover. Dover is, St. Lawrence Gap. Man, that thing was so quick, I got damaged.
Oh.
Yeah, fence the calf and all. Yeah, a practice match. You telling me that we're going to be playing a finals in Barbados. In Barbados, where this wicket's supposed to be, traditionally it was a fast wicket. We are now going to be playing a final in Barbados where you better walk out with your spinners. What is this?
Well, then you're actually putting an X on South Africa there already.
Well,
South Africa has two mean spin bowlers in Shamsi and Mirage, and you might have Markram bowling some spin as well.
Too.
But still, they rely heavily on their pace. Very much on their pace.
So they're well rounded, but I'm simply saying to you, but this is what Barbados is going to be presented to the world, a spinner's wicket. What is going on?
Could that benefit the swing bowlers too?
Well, swing bowlers, once the ball turns, the bowlers can swing the ball. But again, the swinging is atmosphere. And by the way, we are playing a World Cup game in rainy season. And I particularly said it's not rainy season, it's hurricane season. We are likely to have a hurricane in Barbados because we don't get hurricane in Trinidad, right? We could blow away all these foreigners in Barbados. What's going on?
I think everyone has said that. Actually, rainy season, hurricane season starts on the 1st of June, and World Cup starts on the 1st of June.
What? That's deliberate. That has to be deliberate. It has to be deliberate. Where we are showcasing to the world that all you could do all they want with us, and we don't mind, we good.
Well, let's talk about some of the standout teams this tournament.
Yeah.
And when I say standout teams, I mean those who've really broken some barriers. You look at USA, for example, and how well they did. And Afghanistan in particular, Afghanistan actually, I think, had the support of the world last night. Well, except in South Africa, of course.
Let's deal with the USA team. The USA team is, of course, Asia.
Yes.
With a Caribbean person or two.
Well, the captain was Bayesian.
And a Jamaican.
Yeah.
Taylor, right? I think he's from
Jamaica. Yeah.
Right. So, listen to me. That team surprised me. They played beyond my expectation. Because, as I understand it, men left India to go and study engineering. Engineering is a top subject. So you have no time to play no cricket. But the talent is there. So these guys, they played beyond expectation. They did. They played beyond expectation. Then you have, of course, the Ali boy who plays for Trinidad. He played for Trinidad.
Ali Khan.
Ali Khan, a number of years.
Who actually was not the standout bowler for USA.
He was horrible. He was horrible. But he had a name. Because he did very well for the CPL teams that he played. He was the least of the apostles. But it tells you something about the team. They did extremely well. But Afghanistan does not surprise me. They did not surprise me. Because I had them into the semifinals as well. I see Mr. Lara, who seemed to know a lot more than me, I had them in the semifinals. So let's deal with that. If you are expected to be into the semifinals and you qualified for the semifinals, you have actually won the finals as far as Afghanistan is concerned. Afghanistan felt as though they won the finals. I saw all the celebration in Afghanistan.
Against Bangladesh.
And I saw all the celebration with our guys in the Caribbean. And I also actually saw them being interviewed and saying they were so tired. They were so tired. We just went to sleep. They played the finals and they won. Inexperience. I don't know if you remember, 1989, we went to Faizabad and coming back up.
No, I don't remember.
Oh, the Trinidad and Tobago playing against Australia, against America. Mm-hmm. Oh, we had won the match.
Don't worry, I've heard all the stories. I've heard all the stories.
We had already won that match. It had me suffering to try to get into the stadium. And this is what happens with inexperience and dotishness.
But then you had Jonathan Trott and you had Dwayne Bravo.
Yes.
But you don't think that experience should have come into play?
I don't even study Jonathan Trott. He has no experience. He's just probably smart and know this. You had Bravo. Bravo has won a number of finals. And he must know. But who is Bravo anyway? He's just Bravo. He can't, hey guys. No, it's led from the head, from the top. And Bravo and Rashid, they seem to be extremely close. I like that. But you know, we need to talk about our Caribbean guys who have been doing well with the other international team. But Bravo and Pollard and so on, excellent.
No, I disagree with you. I think England is a flukes. I think they've gotten through to the semi-finals just by...
See, that's it. Anytime you see a team struggling and they get through eventually, be careful. They're going to win the finals.
So you think England...
No, I said be careful.
Be careful.
What I see.
All right, okay, yeah, I take it.
I thought India and Australia would have been in the final. So I'm still going to hold on with India.
With India.
But I'm also glad that Australia went home. I'm tired of Australia, actually. I'm really tired of Australia. I don't understand why just about 22, 23 million people could be so good. I just don't understand it. In everything, you know.
Excellent.
In everything, including keeping the Aborigines at bay.
You're speaking about that, and look at India, for example. We know India is a cricketer nation.
Yes.
Cricket is a religion in India. But at the beginning of the tournament, you spoke a lot about Bumrah. And Bumrah has been good. But it's Arshdeep Singh who has really lit up India's
You see,
wicket.
that's what happens. You're not looking for Arshdeep Singh, but you're looking for Bumrah. So you're being hesitant against Bumrah, and you're going to attack Arshdeep. So that happens with Rashid, for instance. You play out Rashid, and the other guys get wickets. So that's the nature of this thing they call cricket. But Rashid continues, though, to be awesome.
He's an excellent captain. I give it to Markram and Rashid, two of the standout captains for me this tournament. Really.
I think you're sounding good because I mean,
I think
Afghanistan did well.
I think Rashid
but
was
it's
a
more
very good
it's
captain.
more than that. I hear a softness from him. Of course, he's not soft. I'm hearing a softness from him. But when they were struggling against Bangladesh, now I've been seeing him in the IPL and everywhere else. He has this power. There's an inward power that this guy possesses that comes out of his hands, and he just do a kind of thing. I don't know what is a la threat, I call it a long time. He just do a kind of thing, and the ball gone for 6. And he transformed that innings that they were having against Bangladesh into 115, and that was it.
I couldn't understand that. So 54 without loss after 10 overs, 115 for 5 after 20.
You have to understand it. When you are playing cricket at a level, and these opening batsmen are not giving the other guys opportunities to bat, then they're not practicing. They're not playing matches.
Well, it's a fair point. I take your point. But then again, Afghanistan, to me, had the best opening batsman in all the teams that have played.
Well, I don't know. I've been looking at this thing, and I've been seeing how many chances that these guys have been playing and missing, how many chances they've been getting. And more than that, the immaturity with running between the wickets. It has been on parade. The immaturity between running between the wickets. And eventually it must come to roost.
I don't think nobody would have seen that, though.
I saw it.
I think the mere fact that you would have seen this opening pair put on 100 without loss against Australia, an Australia bowling lineup, I think people would have noticed that more than anything else.
I noticed it, but there were a number of chances they got, a number of easy chances. Australia fielding, it was poor, it was abysmal, really. But you have to give them credit. They stayed the course, and they did what I wanted them to do. Beat the living daylight out of Australia and give themselves a lot of confidence. But I am tired of Australia and the excellence.
So what about some of the tournament flops? And I'm speaking about New Zealand, Pakistan, for example.
No, Pakistan is not a flop.
You really don't think so?
No,
Pakistan okay, hold on. Pakistan had every opportunity against India. Every single opportunity against India, Lester.
Pakistan performed up to expectation. We know Pakistan is like a tidal.
I like how you phrase it. They don't flop, they just performed up to expectation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you don't know who is turning up with Pakistan. This has all, and by the way, West Indies are very similar to Pakistanis, eh? So you don't know who you're playing against. And by the way, as you talk about New Zealand, I expected New Zealand to perform poorly, you know. I expected it to perform poorly. When you look at what's happening in the IPL, you have to use the IPL as a reference point. I don't know if it was deliberate, but none of those guys, except Bolt, were allowed to play. They kept them, and it cannot be deliberate. But they have a new ploy now how to deal with certain countries. They kept those guys out of the playing field. They kept them out.
The conspiracy of the BCCI.
No, it's not a conspiracy. It's just amazing how New Zealand was treated based on each person playing in the satellite group. It just worked out that Kane, who is a star boy, he wasn't bowling. This one, that one, all of them they weren't match fit. Most of the Caribbean guys were actually playing, and so they continued. Of course, all of the Indian guys were playing, and this is something that the world we must address. India, they are at a serious advantage over everybody else because they're coming everybody into form. Jaiswal, he even get play. He's the baddest thing in town. He even get play. So India had it going for them real good.
Well, India have it great. They have the top T20 batsman in Surika Yadav, and then they've got Ashdeep Singh as well, who's early.
Rohit.
Rohit, yes. I mean, oh God.
He's a bad man.
He's on a different level himself.
He's on a different
level himself.
Yeah.
One of the teams that I actually didn't expect to do well, and I was proven correct, was Sri Lanka. I don't know where Sri Lanka's cricket has gone to.
Where it's going.
Yeah,
I don't know. But let's take a pin, you know. Because we ain't talking about the baddest man yet. He's been failing. He's had 2 or 3 ducks. The former captain of India.
Kohli.
Listen to me. These guys are bad Johns, you know.
You realize we didn't call Kohli's name at all this conversation.
That's what I'm saying. This is a bad man, you know. This is a bad man. These guys have pride. So when you've been sleeping, these guys will be practicing. Kohli is not going to accept what has happened to him so far. You know? He's not going to accept that. And I know he has 2 innings possibly, 2 innings left. Something is going to happen.
So South Africa made it into the finals. They beat Afghanistan last night. It was a very unfortunate game, very poor game. But we understand what happened there with the pitch. It was terrible. It was terrible. You got potholes in the pitch.
I didn't hear you say once again. Yeah? Once again, this one showed up more than everything else.
It had potholes in the...
You tell me why this game was played in Taruba and not at the Queen's Park Oval. I cannot understand
how the ICC gave approval for these pitches.
But they're actually working there, you know.
Around the Caribbean is one thing, right? St. Lucia had a beautiful wicket. St. Vincent, a good wicket. But I can't see how you gave approval to the wickets in New York and how you gave approval to the wickets in Taruba. I can't see it.
That's not possible. That is unbelievable. But then again, too, there's a part of my life that a lot of people don't know. Once you say politics, I'm apolitics. And that reeks of total politics. Total politics, and I am out. But you cannot tell me that you will give up a wicket like the one we have at the Queen's Park Oval to play down in Taruba. And I said to people, right here, I'm sitting next to where am I on the left here? Taruba has 2 wickets. 1 for spin bowlers, 1 for fast bowlers. I don't know which one they chose. They probably chose one in between. Because that was a horrible, horrible display that we presented to the world.
Yeah. Well, as I said, India, England tonight. You going for India tonight?
Well, I have no choice, actually. I have no choice. I love me Rohit. I love Rohit. I love Kohli. I ain't care for the bowlers. I was a batsman who could have bowled. But these Indians can really, really, really bat. And there's a softness. There's a softness. Let me explain. I am the captain of India. I'm also the captain of Mumbai Indians. And just like that, you just dropped me from being the captain of Mumbai Indians. And I played. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed playing with the guy who is my subordinate now in the Indian team. There must be something that make me a superhuman to accept that kind of embarrassment and insult. Of course, I'm a human being, so I'm going to respond to it. But he stayed there, and everybody's better afraid. If I were him, but I'm only a Trinidadian, I'm a lot older than him, I'd find another team to play next year, for sure.
In the IPL?
Yeah. You can't insult me and embarrass me so for the world. But I am Indian. The English team not going to give in or give up, because they have a very good team as well.
Joss Butler kicked in against the USA.
Massive sixes. And then you have the one Caribbean person I believe in.
You've got two.
I believe in one. You see this other guy?
You've got Archer and you've got Jordan.
Jordan is an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. Has consistently been an embarrassment. And ever so often he gets 3 wickets.
Well, actually, I was actually very surprised that he was in the starting 11. No?
No, I'm surprised he's in the squad. Jordan, when he played for Trinidad, whatever all name, I said, why they pick this guy? Because Jordan is a licks man. He gets a lot of licks. Jordan do. Any ball going close to Jordan for a catch, close your eyes, it's done. He's probably one of the best catchers in the world. That's a fact. I've seen him done some stuff in slips that is not possible, but yet still he pulled it off. I've seen him out in the outfield. Jordan is unbelievably good. Jordan is a horrible bowler, horrible bowler. And if he's batting good, well, that's one of the times that a pelican passed by here in the Sahara Desert. But this guy is not up to standard, but he gets picked, and I understand why he's picked, because this is the Caribbean, and the finals is going to be in Barbados, or you play in Barbados. And the last time he played in Barbados, last week, he was excellent. So
what about Joffrey Archer this tournament? He's been plagued by injury throughout his career. He's back in the squad. He's made the starting 11 consistently.
He played all the games basically, but Joffrey Archer, I don't know if his focus is right, but he's a talent. He's really quick. He's very good. I looked at him and I see a man with his pants just below his ankle. It tells me that, how you look.
It's the West Indian coming out in him as well. He's walked out with that massive gold chain, boy.
Embarrassingly so. And then he has this thing with Serena and there with a thing in his hair. And his hair is plait up. I find that all those things are distractions. Just come and play the people cricket. God has blessed him. Well, God didn't bless the West Indies, because when he was injured playing for the West Indies, we do what we are accustomed doing with everybody else.
Him, yeah.
We just didn't bother with him. And England say, come. And of course, he was injured.
And they kept him, and they were, yeah.
No. This is important for your viewers to hear. They didn't keep him. They retained him at a massive income.
And rehabilitated him.
Rehabilitated him. So he ain't going anywhere. And as soon as this World Cup is finished, he's not going on no plane with no English team, He's staying back in Barbados, because he's a Barbadian. This is its most surprising thing. These guys are not living in England per se, They are spending most of their time in Barbados. They take a plane and they go on to play in the English league.
Well, you just said it yourself. The pitches are there for training for pace bowlers. Yeah.
So we are in the deporting business. So we deport a lot of people, and we export a lot of people to elsewhere, and we hope that we will do well here. With only 5.5 million, England is 70 million. They don't need us, but we give them players consistently.
Finally, when you look at the finals on Saturday in Kensington, you've got India, you've got South Africa. You're going with India, South Africa.
I'm going with India.
All right. No choice with South Africa at this point. But
if I were people, I would bet against me, because I bet for Australia, and Australia not there.
But you've analysed the pitch in Kensington. You've looked at both teams. You want to call a prediction right now for the winner?
In terms of what? Yeah, the winner is India.
India.
India. India's going to win the World Cup. But my problem with India is that they were colonized for 200 years. And that's not good. That's not good. We were colonized for 400 years. but we found something to fight for under Viv Richards and Clive Lloyd. We fought for that. There was a pride, there was an inward hunger. These people colonized India, I didn't realize, about 200 years. And India, on many, many occasions, are there to win. And somebody just, because sometimes they have very good players. That steel, that thing that Afghanistan has, they were misled this last round.
Well, to be honest with you, in the last few years, if you take a look at India in the semi-finals or finals, that's when they start to drop their form.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying to
But
you.
you have also made the argument that the sleeping giant and Kohli might wake up at the right time.
He has to. And that in itself, because he's an infectious sort of guy, you know. Kohli does not perform, you know. He overperforms because he injects enthusiasm with everybody else. So, okay, so I'm not making any runs. You ain't gonna drop me. I'm not making any runs. So I am there, but it's lukewarm. When Kohli makes his runs, don't feel that you could drop catch and you could. He's Viv Richards' cousin, you know. He bad, you know. So Kohli is going to pull this thing together, and that is what, that's touch. That the Australians, they have it. They have it because again, they send them down there because there's a certain kind of mentality. And then they went there and they lick up all the Aborigines. They know how to kill and how to treat people poorly. And so they have that within them. The Afghanistanis, I'm telling you this, within 10 years, they are going to rule world cricket. All the countries who you've seen fought wars.
In the shortest format, you're saying?
Any format, but let's start with the shortest format. Because who bought in with Test cricket? Just me?
No, actually, I don't know, boy. When the Ashes come around, I am glued to the television. You can't be Test cricket.
It's not just the Ashes. The Ashes, and when India playing Australia as well, India playing England, those serious.
India, Australia, England, yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
It's fight. It's fight. And again, probably because it's over an extended period of time, they're able to recover. But T20, you have to have that starch in you. That starch that Viv Richards and Gordon Greenidge and Clive Lloyd and these guys they were winners. They need to have that with that Indian team. If they're able to get that fighting thing going on here, this game today and the next game, India could win this tournament.
Well, let's take us. We've heard your thoughts. I might have to bring you back next week, depending on what happens on Saturday. Thank you very much for your time once more. And, well, we'll have to talk about Pollard and Bravo as potential coaches for the West Indies.
No, please. No. Let them be assistant coaches. Sorry.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Do have a great day ahead. We look forward for the game starting at 10:30 this morning. And then, of course, the finals, that's at 10:30 in Barbados on Saturday. But ladies and gentlemen, have a good day and we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.